This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Sahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellow Wall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 490 of the Yellow Wall Pods. I'm your Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about a 4-2 comeback win against VfL Bochum, and we will preview tomorrow's Champions League game at home against Celtic. For that more, joins me Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias. And I have to ask, how are you doing?
Well, aside from the travel crud that I probably picked up in a 24-hour travel day last week, I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well myself. Thank you very much. I don't know where else to start than with your tweets from this weekend.
Okay.
On September 27th at 3:03 p.m. in the afternoon, Matthias said, "It's time for a new coach. It was worth a punt with Shine, but they've been far too bad and much is his fault." Kaboom! That thing landed on my timeline with very hot energy. Now, I know you've been a little bit under the weather recently, so I don't know if this was you tweeting through a fever or Matthias, if this is your opinion after what was a really disastrous first 20 to 30 minutes against Bochum.
Oh, it was definitely my opinion. You know, some people have accused me of being far too lenient with Edin Terzic in the past. And now, I got accused of jumping ship really fast with Nuri Sahin. Obviously, I hope it works out, blah, blah, blah. I could say that every time, including when Peter Stöger was there. However, my problem in those, it's not even those 25, 30 minutes that was just such a disaster. I don't even know how to describe it beyond complete train wreck shit show. But it goes beyond that because if Dortmund, they should have conceded 3 in that phase. And then even after that, when they were the more dominant side, they got opened up a few times too many, and so many just stupid, unforced errors. And I get, and then you compound that with the non-showing against Stuttgart. And I have, people in the timeline saying, "Oh, so it's not the player's fault at all. Kobel's mistake, that's down to Sahin, blah, 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 blah." Yeah, it is. It's down to Nuri Sahin. It's down to coaching. It's that simple. Because for me, the juxtaposition, if you take Hoeneß at Stuttgart, Hoeneß already at Hoffenheim, Nagelsmann at Hoffenheim, and Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen, where they took either average to mediocre players or even players that were really bad fighting against relegation, and suddenly, during the course of a summer, changed to becoming very good players in a very good system and as a team collective playing really, really well. Jonathan Tah didn't suddenly know how to defend. And in fact, you could make the argument he still doesn't know, because when he played for Germany against the Netherlands, he tried to hit the self-destruct button for 45 minutes. But that is coaching. That is, the common denominator is the man at the touchline. And you look at Waldemar Anton, who came from Hoeneß's Stuttgart side, who became a German national team player, and now is wobbly at the back at Dortmund. For me, it's down to coaching. These players don't know what is expected of them tactically. They are overwhelmed not necessarily by the situation. They're all professionals, but it's so disjointed. Whether it's in pressing, whether it's in build-up, whether it's in possession. Like, I don't know what to make of this. And the players, what then happens is this trickle-down effect of they try too much. They are rattled easily. I mean, Kobel doing what he did. Also, it's not all on Kobel. It was 2 really bad passes backwards that led to that situation that never should have happened, where everyone is just unsure. And that is down to coaching. That is down to the people on the touchline. Because otherwise, I can't explain it any other way, because under Edin Terzic, that type of self-destruction in defense was rarer. Build-up play, attacking play, obviously not amazing, but he managed to shut down that problem, which is also why they did so well in the Champions League, because of the tournament play aspect of that. Nuri Sahin, I don't know what he's trying to do there. I'm at a complete loss. Had it not been against a VfL Bochum side who then also just stopped playing, let's be honest, with a 2-0 lead, and even when Dortmund came back into the match, they really didn't do much. Statistically, that's also proven out. Had that been against a team that's good or even average, Dortmund 100% would have lost that game and would never have gotten back into it. Because also, if you look at the goals getting into it, I mean, you have a penalty, then you have a shot on target that goes through the goalkeeper's legs to go in. The Mecha goal was a fumbled keeper error. So, yeah, the scoreline is way too flattering. And to me, Nuri Sahin, to date, is not up for it, and I don't think Dortmund can afford to experiment and find themselves. Stuttgart could do that because they were battling relegation the season before, and they had nothing to lose. Leverkusen could do that well when they brought in Xabi Alonso because they were battling relegation, and they're like, we got to try something, and, well, it definitely worked out. Dortmund, they weren't battling relegation. This is like, it's a different type of situation, and I'm very concerned, Stefan, and I'm very unhappy.
Well, Matthias, there's also a tweet from myself, quote retweeting at Sportbuzzer. It's like a news site, I guess, about sports, obviously. And their headline was, Company, the other Alonso, how the new Bayern coach is immediately convincing. And I wrote, I was hoping for this sort of headline about Sahin, but unfortunately Sahin is closer to the other Peter Bosch. And Abel Metaros actually had a Facebook reminder of us meeting 6 years ago in the Metschmackes in Dortmund, and I think we recorded a podcast episode back then, and this game in particular against Bochum really reminded me of, I think it was a 4-1 or 4-2 loss against Hanover, where Dortmund were just horrendously carved open by a then struggling Hanover team that was also fighting relegation. And the ridiculousness of counterattacks that Dortmund conceded basically in that Bosch stint was equally horrendous than what happened against Bochum last Friday. And funnily enough, I looked it up because I were talking about this game a little bit, and Nuri Sahin was the holding 6 in this game. Matthias, I'm nowhere near close to saying it's time to sack Nuri Sahin and find an alternative, because I don't know if there is a good option out there, but I certainly can mirror the sentiment of that Dortmund might be a little bit in trouble with the way they're playing. And, you know, I said it before, Nuri Sahin's playing style is very risky. You know, his build-up often leads right into the opponent's press, and then he's hoping that the individual skill of his midfielders is good enough to play through and around this pressing, and that obviously doesn't always come off. The way that Bochum managed to create high scoring chances, how their number 9 just can run through, to Kobel, and then, obviously he missed, but how easy it was. One long ball over the top and then a 1-2, and our entire backline is exposed, is really, really concerning. Now, maybe the one grain of salt for this is that Schlotterbeck and Anton do not have a lot of practice playing together, and this was yet again a newly formed backline with Couto playing as a right back for the first time, with Riasson playing as a left back for the first time. Maybe it's the lack of automatism and not knowing what the other player next to you is doing. Maybe it's just down to inexperience. But Matthias, you are definitely right in the sense that Dortmund are, at least in that regard, much, much worse than they were last season under Terzic. And to have this, I would say, stark regression right at the beginning of the season does not make me really positive about the next few games, including Tuesday night against Celtic, because I think Dortmund will be very chaotic pretty much every game. And I think you're absolutely right. If this was a game against Stuttgart again, let's say, I think Dortmund would have lost again 4-6-0 or so, because they were just as exposed as they were in the Stuttgart game. And Dortmund are lucky that they are currently still in 5th place and like 3 points off the lead, if my math is correct, in the Bundesliga, and that things are still relatively close. But if this continues, it won't be close for much longer, because you cannot sustain this sort of defense for long and not be somewhere in mid-pack in the Bundesliga. And if Dortmund's ambition is to, and that's the minimum ambition, to qualify in the top 4, that is already threatened, I would say, with this sort of playing style. And on top of that, I watched the Bayern Leverkusen game this Saturday, and my takeaway was that neither team, at least for now, is on the level where they are definitely going to just win and bag the league. Yeah, Bayern had a lot of good results so far, but while they dominated this game, they don't look like absolute world beaters just yet. And on the other hand, Leverkusen also seem like they have regressed a little bit from their high-flying season of last year. So if Dortmund had their shit together just for once, I think they could be in a competitive title race. But the fact that Dortmund do not have anything together right now is a little vexing, although obviously not surprising considering the amount of change we had. So that all being said, Matthias, there were obviously a couple of positive takeaways from that game too, which I think we should talk about, so this is not just all doom and gloom. Serge Guirassy, 2 goals, 1 a penalty, looks to be the game changer that we thought he was going to be. What do you make of his performance and Dortmund, in the end at least, coming back from being down 2-0?
Well, he's doing what he got paid to do. I mean, that's great to see with a striker. He's paying off right away, and you're right. Looking at some of the positives, that was incredibly positive. I thought Adeyemi overall was pretty good. I thought Duranville was really good when he came on, and I got to say, Jan Koto impressed me. If you look at his offensive contribution, he was way more impactful than Julian Brandt. And I don't know if that says a lot about Julian Brandt or Jan Koto.
Yes, it does. Because Julian Brandt is in an absolute funk.
He's in a funk, and I think, again, that's down to what he's asked to do. I think that's again, rests on Nuri Sahin. But Jan Koto, I mean, he had a lot of shot creating, goal creating moments. He had a lot of progressive passes, a lot of progressive carries. I mean, he was really good. And again, Adeyemi as well. Gittens and Duranville, I mean, they were doing what they were asked to do. But again, Stefan, this is where I look at it and go, I don't understand what this team is trying to do. Are they trying to possession their way through slick passing, or is it about take-ons? Because Adeyemi, Gittens, Duranville, it was all about one-on-one situations again and again and again. And I'll be honest, Adeyemi, there were 2 times in particular where if he would have just looked for a pass, they could have carved Bochum open so easily. And he just ran into a block, pulled it back, and the counterattack was gone. And so I'm struggling there a little bit. But Guirassy, fantastic performance. If Emre Can wasn't a 100% penalty taker, I would have kind of liked to have seen him take the penalty and then get his first Dortmund hat-trick. But Emre Can's never missed a penalty, which I got really angry about during the commentary because he probably said it 3 or 4 times. And I was sitting there in German saying,
waiting for the commentator's curse.
Yeah, I was like, why don't you just say it one more damn time? Okay. And then of course he scored.
On the ESPN feed, they said it also. I think if someone has a 100% record, it will be set before every penalty.
Correct.
So
correct. Which didn't work well for Grifo for Freiburg, which I don't think he had a 100% record. But they're like, oh, he never misses. Boom, misses. But. I mean, there were some positive moments in attack. I think the wing play is really positive. There just needs to be more coming from that. I think some of the adjustments coming into the second half obviously made a difference because Dortmund were the much better, more dominant side in the second half. The fact that Can and Gross weren't asked to sit in the same position the whole time really helped. It freed up Pascal Gross, who was tired. You could just tell after a while he just got a little bit tired. Nemecha came on, obviously not a Pascal Gross when it comes to passing. Maximilian Bayer, I still am trying to figure him out, but I thought he did okay. Was more positive than Julian Brandt. He actually had take-ons. So no, I mean, overall, it was fine because Dortmund got away with it because it's against a Bochum side that is definitely going to be one of the top relegation candidates this season. So, if another thing, my statistic for tell me who's desperate and or losing a match are crosses. And I like to harp on that. And Dortmund played 25 crosses. And that was clearly something they were trying to do in the second half. I question that strategy a bit. But, Dortmund had 11 corners. Bochum didn't have a single one. But Dortmund played way more long balls than Bochum as well, 72-62. So, yeah, it's a little... I don't know. They were getting desperate after 70 minutes, and then it all kind of fell into place for Dortmund. But it was a tough match to watch, especially because this isn't Bochum like it was last season or the season prior to that, where they were always really dangerous. This is a pretty passive, weak Bochum side, and Dortmund had their issues, obviously, against them.
Yeah, for sure. But there are certainly a couple of positives I also want to highlight. One is the sustained pressure that Dortmund could build in phases of the game right before halftime, where they made it 2-1. And you talk about crosses. Guirassy obviously scored off the Julian Brandt cross. And when we talk about Guirassy's performance, I think what is notable is that he scored 2 striker goals, but in very different ways. So his scoring bag is very good, and that makes me very positive about him, because that header was really a nice thumping header that the goalkeeper definitely could not save, and the other one through the legs. I think first of all, the pass by Adeyemi was good, even though I feel like he should have had one or two more passes to Guirassy. I think there was this one moment where he had two defenders on him and Guirassy was running and wide open to his right, and Adeyemi just completely missed the pass. Probably didn't even recognize that Guirassy was this open. But again, the finish by Guirassy was really good. The header was really good, and obviously the way he the penalty was created was also nice. I think overall we saw a couple of few backheel combinations. You just talked about all the crosses. I don't have it in front of me, but Dortmund definitely found other ways to come into Bochum's penalty area. And if we compare that to the Bremen game, I'm pretty sure we will find a lot more of the carries and passes into the box that were not crosses. And at least from that standpoint, there are a few positive things to take away. The Dortmund really have some cute little combinations going for them where you think, okay, it's not all bad. But the problem is, as great as this all is and will make for some really fantastic goals and fantastic football, like the long-term problem for Dortmund this season is currently their defensive shape and how easily they are being carved open. So as I look at the positives, as great as Duranville was running at tired Bochum defenders, and how much of a weapon that will be this season, it is still the problem that Dortmund do not have the energy, especially with this schedule, to dig themselves out of a hole every time. So yeah, the last two games, even three, maybe even four, were all not great. Especially Brugge should have had a couple goals in the first 5 minutes, because similar Dortmund also had a couple of errors there in their build-up that Brugge just failed to take advantage of. But this is highly, highly problematic right now that Dortmund concede these chances. And with that, Matthias, we should look forward to the Champions League tie, because I already talked about the Brugge game. And my question beforehand was, will Dortmund show more maturity on the European stage and play a bit more risk-averse, or will Nuri Sahin make the mistake and play the Champions League like it's a Bundesliga game, which is, in my mind, a no-no, and if you do that, you will get punished, because it's just a different style in the Champions League. And the Brugge game, even though Dortmund won 3-0 at the end, looked a lot more like it's going to be the Bundesliga version of how Dortmund approach these games, which again, in my view, is not the right way. Now, I do not know too many things about, as we call them, Celtic Glasgow. Other than that, they are currently leading their league on goal difference against Aberdeen, and they thumped Slovan Bratislava 5-1 in their opening night of the Champions League, and that's more or less it. I don't even know if I know too many players that play there. Maybe Schmeichel, the goalkeeper, and Colin McGregor in midfield, the captain. These are two names I recognize, but other than that, I struggle because I do not watch the Scottish Premiership a lot, if at all. So, Matthias, I know you've lived in Scotland. I don't know if you can glean any information about the upcoming tie. If not, we definitely need to talk about it from a Dortmund perspective, though.
Yes, lived in Scotland. Always favored Hibs more, just because I guess I like an underdog. As far as Celtic goes, Cameron Carter-Vickers is already in there, which obviously is a name known to U.S. fans. But overall, they've got some decent players. But the Scottish Premiership, the problem there is it's just not a challenge for Celtic. They won the double again. And, their budget is just so much higher than anyone else in there. I mean, Rangers gets closer, but not close anymore these days. So, yeah, I mean, the only real long sustainable tests that they tend to face are are in the European stage, where historically they tend to get thumped, at least in the last couple of decades. It's one of those where Dortmund are going to be facing a veteran manager with a rookie manager. I agree with you. I would feel way more confident, believe it or not, if Edin Terzic was on the sideline, because
And Mats Hummels
at center back, because obviously he knew how to coach tournaments. He knew that. I mean, they won the DFB Pokal with him. They made it to a Champions League final with him as a coach. So he knew how to individually prep. Whether Nuri Sahin can do that or not, I don't know. If they play against Celtic like they have played in the last 4 total matches, including Brugge, I think it could be a very uncomfortable evening for Dortmund and Dortmund fans, which would be a bit of a blight. I also believe that I am happy that it's Celtic and not the Real Madrid or Barcelona matchup right now, because I think then Dortmund would get publicly and internationally humiliated at this point. Badly humiliated. And that could still happen against Celtic, but I don't necessarily think... I would be shocked if Celtic score 7 or 8 goals on Dortmund. I do believe they're going to score a couple. How many Dortmund are capable of scoring? I have no idea. I mean, that's the thing, Stefan. I don't know what to expect. I guess that would transition us to look at it from the Dortmund perspective, because obviously
I think we're honestly like a vintage Werder Bremen right now, where our backline gets destroyed, but we have the offensive capabilities to also score 3-4 goals every game. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, attacking wise, Dortmund do create chances out of open play in a much better way than they did last season under Terzic. It is just the fact that Nuri Sahin, for all the criticism we just laid on him, I think has that figured out better, but obviously the imbalance of this game is or this style is sadly, like I said, not sustainable. I should probably mention that Furuhashi is next to Cameron Carter-Vickers, their most valuable striker or player, because he is a striker, and I'm intrigued to see how he will play against us, because if he's, and I assume, I hope this is not racist, but as a Japanese football player, I assume we will we have to counter not someone like, I think Hofmann is his name, from Bochum, who is just like 2 meters tall and wins every header, but is probably one. I think he's 1.70 m, so I assume he is technically gifted, fast, and high footballing IQ, because that's usually the archetype you get from the J League if they make it in other European leagues, and so this is an interesting challenge for Dortmund, how they switch from defending like a tall holder player to a probably more elusive striker, let's say. But when we talk about the Dortmund perspective, first of all, I now have made it a habit to not look at the lineup until I see the kickoff, because I don't want to be furious like an hour before the game. And I don't know about you, but I really hope that we don't see another Schlotterbeck at left back experiment or any of these things. I want to see the same backline that we saw against Bochum. And if we make one change, it would be Süle in for Anton, because with Schlotterbeck and Süle, you at least have 2 center backs that have played with each other for a little bit longer. And when we talk about automatism, maybe they just gel a little bit better, because Schlotterbeck and Anton did not gel together well at all against Bochum. But on the other hand, you need to give these things time, as I said before, and for them to gain a rhythm, they will have to play together. So Nuri Sahin, I think, will have to decide what's sort of his 1A option, and then figure out his 1B option. But for now, I'm just hoping that we play with an actual left back or Riasson on the left side. My confidence in Ben Sbaini, and I have not seen the Stuttgart game, but the glimpses I saw from the Stuttgart game is, like I said, it's not very high going into the season, and it is what it is. But I feel better with Riasson on the left side and Couto on the right side, and have this as the structure going forward. I personally think that Pascal Gross should have had a rest probably already against Stuttgart or in Bruges, because we talked about it with Jonathan Harding. He needs his breaks, and so far it does not seem like he's getting them, because Nuri Sahin is probably deeming him too vital for Dortmund's general structure. But honestly, it is not conducive to have him play all these minutes and not have rest phases. So I would personally play Emre Can, who I personally thought had a really good game against Bochum, and Mecha in midfield. And then I don't know if it would be the Adeyemi, Malen, Guirassy lineup, or if Gittens starts again. That is, to me, I don't know, secondary. I mean, Gittens saved the game against Brugge basically, but I personally still like him better as a substitute than as a starter. But I think last week made the point that he would always love to have one of Gittens and Duranville on the pitch at all times, just because of the sheer one-on-one skills that they have, and what they can make happen out of this. And personally, I don't know, should we drop Julian Brandt for Maximilian Bayer just to see what happens? Because Julian Brandt is not in the form he needs to be to really help Dortmund right now. He had so many sloppy touches against Bochum, where I think something else needs to happen. If Gio Reyna was fit, I honestly would start him currently, just because of how bad Julian Brandt is playing, just to see if anything else works out. And then, of course, we still have the Sabitzer conundrum, which is maybe someone we can also play instead of Brandt, more centrally as a number 10, because I sure as heck will hope that Sabitzer is not going to play on the wing again, like ever.
Yeah, that was always the weirdest one that I just could not fathom. Like, really, he proved himself a valuable box-to-box midfielder centrally last season, especially in the second half, and then you
only made the Champions League Team of the Year, but no big deal.
And then you move him to the right wing. Why? Like, do you think you're that smart? Like, again, these are the things where I go, I just don't think he's meant for this. And
we talked about principles a lot. Here's another Stefan Busko principle.
Okay.
Before you tweak your team how to play against the opponent, you have to tweak your team on how the team best works with each other, right? So this is step 1, and then comes step 2. Like, first of all, you need to figure out what's the best chemistry for your team before you figure out how you best counter your opponent's strengths. That is sort of my principle. And if you come up with a lineup where, like we said, Sabitzer on the right just does not work for your team whatsoever, then I don't think it really helps if you have like one tactical wrinkle against your opponent, where it just doesn't work out in the end that way, because the chemistry is just fucked on your side before. I mean, we needed Sabitzer on the right wing against Brugge so he can contain Castellara or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think there are better ways to do it, and that's like a weird thing of vertucheln, as we call it, where you just overthink things that are just not working out in the end, and that is one of the red flags early on that we have with Shine. But maybe he figures things out, maybe he doesn't. But the overall point being is, I would have liked a coach that doesn't need to figure all these things out because it's more or less his first big job, but someone with a little bit more work experience that knows these things before, and we don't have to see a million experiments on like basically open heart surgery during competitive games. That's just me, though.
No, Stefan, that's not just you. I completely agree. So yeah, I think in summary, our analysis is who knows what's gonna happen. It's the ultimate Wundertüte, and we'll see what happens. And I don't know about you, Stefan, but that does not make me happy. That does not fill me with joy and confidence that I can't go in watching a Dortmund match with an expectation. Whether that's a good or bad expectation, I would kind of like to not be surprised. And I feel like the surprise is definitely going to be there. And unfortunately, I don't think it's always going to be a fun one. And so it's... and like you mentioned earlier, as far as letting Nuri Sahin go, yeah, I was frustrated. And no, I don't necessarily think that they should kick him out now, because who are going to put in there? Lukas Piszczek? Great. Let's get even less experience on the bench.
Yeah, if Piszczek doesn't work, we can fire him and then put Marcel Schmelzer there.
Exactly. I mean, the issue for me was, and this is where I kind of got into the weeds a little bit on social media, wasn't necessarily, when people say, oh, who are you going to replace him with? Oh, okay, fine. That ship has sailed right now. Unless somehow you get Jürgen Klopp, which won't happen, that ship has sailed right now. However, in the summer, and Stefan, allow me to digress a little bit in a little bit of a mini rant here.
Sure. I will never hold you back from a rant.
There were 2 managers that were available. Okay? Proven. Quality managers. Neither one of them spoke German. However, they have coached in countries where they also did not speak the language. Didn't seem to impact them. One by the last name Pochettino, the other one by the last name of De Zerbi. De Zerbi then went to Olympique Marseille. And I'm sorry, Borussia Dortmund trumps Olympique Marseille. The Bundesliga trumps Ligue 1 by stratospheres. And bringing in a De Zerbi, and some people say, oh, look at the transfers he brought in. I mean, you're still thinking in a weird, antiquated English way of the way managers work and football works. Dortmund wanting to take a punt on one of their own with Nuri Sahin is fine. However, I want a club that is ambitious. And they were basically looking at, how can we copy Bayer Leverkusen? And Bayern kind of did it, but Vincent Kompany has more experience under his belt, both in a coaching sense in Anderlecht and then, of course, at Burnley. And Nuri Sahin, he had a little bit of experience in Turkey and did well. But if you're looking at who other clubs are bringing in, if you bring in a De Zerbi, in my opinion, yeah, it would cost a good chunk of money. He would not have been cheap in terms of wages. But Dortmund have the money to spend. It's not like they don't have the money. So my question is, do they lack ambition? Do they, you can't say they lack risk-taking. They gave the job to Nuri Sahin. That's a high risk. Do they lack intelligence? Because they just didn't think in those terms? Is it really you have to speak German? And therefore we won't even entertain that conversation. I don't get it. And my problem is, Stefan, I have yet to hear a convincing argument from the club as to why so quickly after Terzic said he's not coming back, they picked Nuri Sahin and why Nuri Sahin is the guy. Why? What do you see? Now, I had question marks come up when I saw Xabi Alonso, but it was Bayer Leverkusen, so I didn't give a shit. And I heard experts say, no, don't sleep on Xabi Alonso. He's going to prove out, and obviously he did. Vincent Kompany, of course, I also went, really? Kompany? I mean, I know he was your 27th choice at Bayern, given all the coaches who said no. But there's a little bit more there than with Nuri Sahin. I am lacking an understanding as to why it was given to Nuri Sahin. Like a convincing argument, not the rah-rah bullshit. Not the, he's from Dortmund, he started playing for the club professionally at 16. I know all of that. I don't care about any of that. I want to know what makes him the guy to take Dortmund to win the Bundesliga, to really go toe-to-toe with Bayern and I guess Leverkusen and Stuttgart now. What is it? And I can't see it. And I didn't hear it from the club. And that's what really pisses me off. And so, I mean, Bayern even gave a better explanation with Kompany. And so I don't know, Stefan, if you can talk me off this ledge. I'll be honest, it's going to take a lot to convince me that Nuri Sahin is the guy. And I'm talking about they better string 5 or 6 dominant performances in a row, convincing, where they don't have a 30-minute total car crash against a Bochum for me to buy into this. Because right now I'm out. I don't buy into it. And I know it's super early to say that, and especially for me, but there are so many red flags right now that, yes, they can play well in an attacking sense, and that's significantly improved over last season. But it doesn't help you if you get absolutely curb stomped defensively over and over and over again, especially because you have good defenders. So I don't know, Stefan, maybe you can talk me off this ledge and lower my blood pressure a little bit.
Why would I even try to attempt this, considering the recent results and how they came about?
Yeah, I know that wasn't a fair question, but
yeah,
I'm just in a negative spiral, and you know me. That's
you're Mr.
not
Positive.
me.
Yeah,
that's not me. I'm Mr. Optimistic when it comes to Borussia Dortmund, and now I'm like, nah, fuck it. It's done.
like I said, I'm not there yet, and I'm sitting here holding on very tightly, hugging my 30 minutes against Heidenheim. Like, it's the cuddly toy that's the only possession I have left in this world. But this team has already shown a few glimpses here and there why it could be really good and why Nuri Sahin is doing a few things right. But the problem is, and we've had this exact same conversation against Peter Bosch, and it's funny, I think a week or so ago I said that it does not give me the same vibe as Peter Bosch, because I think under him we won the first 5 games, and we were all sitting here and saying, yeah, the results are nice, but defensively it's only a matter of time until all of this falls apart. I didn't have that feeling initially, because I thought defensively against Frankfurt, although they had this one big chance to go ahead, which they obviously missed, it wasn't like Frankfurt were carving us open like this. And even Heidenheim were a bit luckier to score the goals that they scored, and it wasn't like a barrage. Now, again, starting with the game against Brugge, it started to me feeling like Dortmund are starting to get exposed in a way they should not get exposed. And Stuttgart obviously happened and really showed the difference between what a good team is in the Bundesliga and what not a good team is in the Bundesliga. And so I can only sit here and say, well, not that we have a different choice anyway, but I think Nuri Sahin needs time. And I said it before, this half season probably going to be a write-off anyway. But I want to see where this goes. in this half season and how Dortmund come out of it, because usually what happens is that Dortmund have this sort of collapse right before the winter break, right? And I want to see if they can find any sort of stability, because in phases their counter pressing looks amazing, in other phases they look like completely disjointed. And I honestly have no idea if this is down to the players still needing time to gel, if this is down to Nuri Sahin asking too many things, because we just talked about the playing style a little bit. But the risks that Dortmund are taking in build-up is enormous, and if things don't go right, you will concede a high-quality chance, which is just never a good idea to begin with. But the other problem is also just the ball watching is back, just like it was under the peak Bosch time, and this is something very worrying, especially for the backline. So I'm sitting here a little bit like you. I'm not hitting the "it's over, it's done" button, but I'm certainly not feeling we're the second richest team in the Bundesliga and we're behaving that way. You know, right now it feels like our journey is trying to break back into the top 4, even though we made this Champions League final. There are there are too many conflicting stories going on at the same time for Dortmund, and to me it is just vexing overall that Dortmund have completely lost the plot on being the second best team in the league behind Bayern. Obviously, granted, because of Bayer Leverkusen's rise, but just overall, you know, they're nowhere near in the same category as Leverkusen were last season, or Bayern for that matter. And I think Dortmund need to quickly refine that ambition, because just saying, oh, we need to make sure we qualify for next season's Champions League just isn't it. This team, even though they're not as rich as Bayern Munich, still needs to find a way to compete for titles. Maybe every season, but every other or every third season, Dortmund should have a competitive roster where, you know, there's one transition season and then you have something to build on and build from that, and let's go. But I feel like we're having back-to-back transition years, and this is something that is really annoying me, because it's an ongoing meme when people ask me if it's a transition year, and I say it's always a transition year, and I would really like to not have one. This is obviously one, Matthias, and I think we will see in winter a few more transfers to fix a few things that were missed during the summer window. But I'll be honest, I cannot talk you off this ledge. Dortmund themselves need you to talk you off this ledge and show that these defensive frailties that they've proven in the last couple of weeks can be turned off again.
Just stop leaving your back line so exposed. Like, if you're expecting one-on-ones at attack, don't let your defenders face one-on-ones all the time. Like, it's just the
It is very annoying that Jan Kauto probably, like, there was a situation where he was in a 2-on-1.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, first of all, I'm probably not used to this from Girona, and second of all, who am I supposed to cover here? You know, it's just that there's just so much ass from our center backs again, which I just think they should not be overwhelmed like this. And obviously they play themselves into trouble also with the back passes that are then weird to Kobe. But we had these situations a couple of times every game, 2 or 3 times, where Dortmund play themselves out of a very high press by the opponent in their own box, and you're always just one miscontrol away from conceding a goal. And obviously against Bochum it did happen, but I'm surprised it didn't happen more often. And then the unfortunate part is, even when they manage to Houdini themselves out of a press without punting the ball, then I feel like too often they don't make any gains from that, because usually when you play around a high pressing opponent, there should be more spaces available for you to then exploit. But too often nothing comes out of this. So yeah, it's.
Do you know difficult. Why Jonathan Tah looks like he actually knows what he's doing? It's because sitting right fucking in front of him are Andrich and Xhaka, who are bossing that space. And that relieves the pressure on him. And Dortmund are incapable of doing it. Absolutely incapable of doing it. And Nuri Sahin needs to figure out how to make Emre Can and Pascal Gross click in that area, or it's going to be a long-ass season for it doesn't matter who you put back there, whether it's Süle or Anton or Schlotterbeck, because they will be exposed again and again and again. You will have overload situations. They will be where they have to pick, to stick or twist. And no matter which decision they do, it's going to be the wrong one. And so that needs to be shut down. And part of that is, like you said, when they're pressing, when their counter press is on, they are steamrolling. But when it isn't on, and it is more not on than it's on, it's the same old story. If not everyone does it, you will be destroyed. And the same in the build-up. If not everyone is capable of building up that way that Nuri Sahin wants to build up, and the opponent successfully presses you out of it, you will get wrecked. And okay, I'll try and be patient. But I'm telling you this, Stefan, if by mid-November Dortmund are sitting 12th and Nuri Sahin is still on the touchline, I won't have any more patience.